but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and it is Thursday night and I'm joined by Supermac and Gibbo. Good evening, lads.
Hi, fellas. Hi, John.
Good to
Hi, big man.
Welcome back, John. Did you have a nice week off?
I did. Terrific. Newcastle didn't lose a game. England won a game. All's all right with the world.
And Malcolm, I hate to remind you, but you did say to people, if England beat Germany, you could get as much abuse as the pundits could throw at you in the chat tonight. So you might get a few others.
Yeah, absolutely fine. No problems on that. I really wasn't confident of England at all, but I thought that they were brilliantly organised, and the lad from Leeds, Phillips, isn't it? What a player he is, dear me. He is absolutely fabulous. It works so hard and is so effective. Really was impressed with him. But overall, Germany had chances which they fluffed. But I really did think that England generally were just really well organised. And well done, Gareth Southgate, because I looked at the side and I thought, oh, no, you're kidding, Gareth. But it worked for him. So well done to everyone concerned.
Mal, has it started to give, Southgate a bit of praise now? Because I mean, we went through the group unbeaten. We've now beaten Germany, a jinx for many, many years since '66. But is it time to start giving them a little bit of a pat on the back?
I suppose it is. I'm still rather suspicious as to whether he's actually really got the material to be an England manager. But heavens above, he does keep on proving himself. So, yeah, I've got to start changing my mind. I think I just wonder whether or not I've got too strong a memory for what he did and what he was at Middlesbrough.
Yeah,
I think that's fair comment, Malcolm. Because I've got a feeling, Mal, that he's geared up to be an international manager more than he's geared up to be a club manager, in the way that Keegan was geared up to be a club manager, like at Newcastle, but not an international manager with England. I think he's an international manager, Malcolm.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, John. I always said that Alan Ball would have been a perfect England manager, far, far better than a club manager. And yes, you're right. There are others who are better handling the top players, and others can just work with the mediocres and get the best out of them.
I mean, Harry Kane broke the duck as well, John. I mean, he hadn't been doing so well, but he was there or thereabouts and put the ball in the back of the net. Raheem Sterling, of course, getting his third goal in the competition, but he's getting blamed for playing a little bit defensively, and that might be having an effect on Kane. But what's your take been on England so far?
Well, the interesting thing with Harry Kane, and I don't know that he's necessarily up to 100% vavavoom quite yet, but, with all goal scorers, Steve, with a fella sitting in the middle here, with Alan Shearer, with Harry Kane, I've always said, don't doubt goal scorers. Don't doubt natural goal scorers. When they don't score, they're another step, and Malcolm famously wrote a book, Never Afraid to Miss. When you miss, you're one more step closer to scoring. Yeah. And Kane scores regularly. Shearer scores regularly. Supermac scores regularly. I don't have any doubt about natural goal scorers, and they sometimes come in spurts. natural goal scorers goals, and I'm hoping that will happen with Harry Kane. But anybody that looks at Harry Kane and sort of says he can't play or he doesn't do enough, you look at his number of goals he scored with England, you look at the number of goals he scored with Spurs, he's a natural goal scorer, and I will always back natural goal scorers. Alternatively, and we're not going to talk about Newcastle and Joe Linton this week, but if you never score goals, then you'll never start scoring goals. You know, you've either got the habit or you haven't got the habit, and I think Harry Kane has got the habit. The only thing I would like to say, what you were saying, Steve, about England and where they go from here, I feel that Gareth, and I want to give him terrific praise because he got to the semi-final of the World Cup and we're in the quarter-finals of the European Championship here. But I do think he's naturally a bit, perhaps like Rafa Benitez, is naturally cautious as a manager. And I just wish a little bit that he would take the reins off the team. I mean, as Malcolm said, you've got to hold up your hands against Germany. It worked perfectly. But I tell you what, the alarm bells were ringing for a lot of people when we got the team sheet, because he fielded 7 people with defensive qualities and 3 people and 3 attackers. And he went without Mount, and he went without Foden, and he went without Grealish. And you're suddenly thinking, has the team got enough? And it was only for me, although I thought, as Malcolm said, I thought that Phillips was sensational and Rice in the second half did terrific.
Yes.
But it was only 20 minutes from time when Grealish come on with that little bit of unpredictability that threw the Germans and we got our goals. Now, if he'd left that little bit longer, it might have been too long. I personally, especially against Ukraine, who are no great shakes, I would like to see Grealish started in that game. I think we just need that little bit more unpredictability than the current side has got, just to make certain we make the progress. Because if we're going to wait the last quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, and then bring on the Grealishes or Mason Mount, there's not much time there. You're really narrowing the gap of opportunity to make certain that you win the game.
It's interesting what Alan Thompson says, Mal. He says, we're boring the opposition. So when after 70 minutes we bring our more attack-minded players on, such as Grealish, as John mentioned, it's a very cunning plan. Well done, Southgate.
But, yeah, I see the point that he's getting at. But if it works, do it. And at the moment it is working. I just get a feeling, though, that well, I've just mentioned the game coming up on Saturday. I take the point that you make, John, about the Ukraine. They're not that special a side at all. But by heavens, they are organised, seriously organised. And it's going to take England a lot of imaginative play up front to stick the ball in the net, I think. So it could be one of those where it's a dour game for an hour, and then Southgate brings on the Grealishes again, and majorly change the game. I can see it going that way. You know, you'd like to go and see an open, flowing game of football. I don't think Ukraine will allow that somehow.
No, I mean, I said last week, Mal, when we did the show, that I fancied England to beat Germany, but I felt would probably, you know, it would then all be it's coming home and everybody would get carried away, and then we'd end up with a team which we should beat in the next round in the quarters, and we'd probably get beat, which is just typical. But that's life as an England fan. It's life as a Newcastle fan. I mean, John, how important, you know, what Alan said there before about boring football, or boring the opposition into submission. But I mean, does it matter? I mean, there was a hell of a lot of criticism. I'm not sure whether you saw it when you were away, but just about Southgate, winning the group. He won the group. He didn't concede a goal. In fact, we haven't conceded a goal all tournament yet, and yet he's still getting criticised. I mean, is it? Is that just the way that football fans are these days in England? I just don't understand it.
It is to a certain extent, Steve, I think, without a shadow of doubt, because we're all football managers in ourselves, aren't we? And I think that Gareth's got an awful lot going for him, and we've got to say that he's got it spot on in the 4 games England have played, perhaps not Scotland. That was the poorest performance and the poorest result. But having said that, it's worked. I just worry a little bit about us giving the window of opportunity reduced. 20 minutes to go will become quarter of an hour to go, will become 10 minutes to go. That is really putting pressure on us to do it. I don't expect him to go gung-ho, and I don't want him to, because the basis of what we hold works to a great extent. I don't want him to put Mount and Foden and Grealish all in the one side with Harry Kane and Sterling, because we then might open up at the back. But if you took the side that started against Germany, bear in mind that was perfect for the German game, but Ukraine are well organised, but they're not Germany. They're not Germany. They are rated 25th in the world, and were the worst placed of the third place qualifiers. They were the worst of the third place qualifiers. They're not a good side. They're an organised side, and they get the best out of the squad they've got. I would just like to see Grealish start as a one change. Not swamp the side with young bucks, because the Saka did very well, I thought, first half. The Arsenal kid on the right, but I would just like to see Grealish. But you know why? Because Grealish does some things that he's not expected to do. And that's how scorers score and creators create, not by doing what's expected of them, but by doing what's not expected. And at this level, if you do what's expected of you, the opposition have the quality to be ready for you. You've got to do something unexpected. And that's what I think Grealish brings to the table.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, John. Can I just go back with regards to Harry Kane? I think it's all too easy to actually forget that right now he's in the middle of a real situation with Tottenham Hotspur. He's wanting away. They're going to do everything to stop him unless they get a phenomenal amount of money. Spurs must be one of the most difficult clubs in the world to try and deal with regards to transfers. And so Kane, he's got an awful lot going on inside of his head with regards to what his future is, where it's going to be, and is he moving to Manchester? Is he going to go abroad? It really can take your focus away from the match that's in hand, and I just felt that I was seeing that from him, but he seemed to, after about an hour, he seemed to suddenly throw the shackles off, as it were, and he started to look a lot more mobile. Hence, he finished up scoring. So well done him. But he is carrying a hell of a lot on his shoulders at the moment.
Yeah, he is. We look forward, of course, to Saturday, and let's hope that England can take another step forward towards the first final since '66. Let's change tact and subject matter. Chris McCarthy's asked this, and this is the avenue I wanted to go down anyway. He's asking, evening Stephen, Malcolm and John only just got over the England result. Brilliant to actually beat Germany. Question for Steve, do you think Rafa joining Everton rules him out if we get a takeover? Chris, he doesn't break contracts. he goes, he gets decent contracts, and then he stays unless, you know, he gets sacked, and that's Rafa Benitez. So forget about him. It's gone. He's part of the history books now, and I personally wish Rafa all the best. You know, haven't got to know him over his 3 years at the club. Does it have any impact on Newcastle's takeover? Of course it doesn't. It's just a case of Rafa Benitez didn't want to wait any longer. There's a job come up which he fancied. It's next to his house. Clearly, it's a financial deal which is suitable to him. And, you know, COVID's changed a lot of people's minds. Rafa was, you know, travelling to China to get, you know, 24 million over a 2-year contract a few years ago when he left Newcastle. But now he's gone. Forget about Rafa. It's history books now. You know, takeover goes through and Steve Bruce does get replaced. It'll be somebody else. So that's all I really want to say on Rafa. Malcolm, we talked about it. We talked about, I mean, going to go to you and John. That's all I personally want to say. But going to you and John, I mean, you first, Mal. We talked about it briefly last week. We knew it was coming. I'd spoken to Rafa's agent and knew that it was a done deal, more or less, and that it was a case of dotting the I's, crossing the T's, as long as Everton wanted him. We've seen a lot of publicity, shall we say, from banners left outside you know, houses in you know, in his area. Not sure whether they hit the right house, of course, but strange move. He seems to like a challenge, doesn't he, Rafa?
Well, yes, he does. I can honestly imagine him at home in the Wirral and his wife saying, "For heaven's sake, why don't you get a job near to home? Come on now. China, flipping heck, it was bad enough when you were at Newcastle. The amount of travelling that you had to do. And then you go to China. Come on now, be sensible, man, and get a job close to home." And so I think he's gone against his own personal feelings to keep the family happy. And of course, his will be a far better family and social life being Everton manager, far better. So I wish him well, I really do, and I think he will do well there. But I think that there are busloads of Everton supporters who would gladly carry him to Newcastle.
John, it's been a strange old 12 months for us. I think me certainly felt Rafa would be back at Newcastle as long as the takeover went through. It hasn't. Has that had, in your mind, has that played its part? Do you genuinely feel he was waiting, hoping that he could come back and get the project back on track? But you know, he's got to look after himself. He wants to manage, and of course, last year his agent would have been saying, "Give it a few weeks, Gaffer. The takeover will go through." 12 months on, we're still waiting. I mean, how long can he wait?
Yeah, we're all waiting, Steve. And, you know, are we one step away from it happening? Or are we a million steps away from it happening? You can only wait so long. And I always felt that if Rafa got a good offer, he would go somewhere. The staggering thing is that it's Everton. And I mean, it really is staggering. I mean, I did a column a few weeks back, and boy, is he going to find out now that if he looks at what his successor at Newcastle got, Steve Bruce, what the abuse he's had from the Newcastle fans, when Rafa was so loved by the Newcastle fans, what he's going to get at Everton, it'll make what Steve Bruce is going through like he's in a holiday camp in Thailand. I mean, it is going to be a lot tougher down there for Rafa, because I'll tell you something, Everton better get off to a good start for Rafa to have any chance whatsoever with the Everton fans. They better come out the traps flying. If they do, he's got time. But if they don't, he will find out what it's really like, because he is facing And by the way, I deplore some of the things that have happened over on Merseyside with the blankets, with the messages on. That is going way too far. Fans have a right to their opinion. The Newcastle fans have an absolute right to say, we don't think Steve Bruce is good enough for our club. Everton have got a right to say that about Rafa, but they have not a right to give intimidation and veiled threats of a physical nature. That has been right out of order. But I'll tell you one thing about Rafa that's different. He has got a thick skin. He is a tough boy. If people have a go at Rafa, it rolls off his back. He doesn't get intimidated. We have seen a bloke up here who's a lovely bloke that was loved by the crowd because everything was going well. But he went down to Chelsea that hated him for the same reason as Everton hated him, i.e. he was at Liverpool. And he went down to Chelsea and he won them a trophy, etc., etc. And the fans still didn't take to him. But it didn't disturb him one iota. He has a huge ability to roll with the punches. But by Jove, he's going to need that at Everton, because if he doesn't get off to a flyer, he's in big trouble. The one thing that's going to help him, I think, is having Duncan Ferguson at his elbow, because he is an absolute hero and legend to Evertonians, and he is hitching his wagon into Benitez, and that will help Benitez. But it's going to be very, very interesting watching from Newcastle how Rafa goes down there, because he needs a good, big start. But I tell you what, he's shown guts, and the owner's shown guts to go through with this appointment, because with a lot of people down there, it's aggro time. And it's going to be tough. But he has that ability to tough it out. And I'm going to be fascinated by it. But I can imagine Steve Bruce having a wry smile behind the scenes and behind the hand over the mouth, because he's struggled in the wake of Rafa Benitez, and he is possibly thinking now, Rafa's going to get what I've got here. So let's see how that goes. I can imagine him just a little smile, because Rafa did get under his skin at Newcastle. We know a couple of quotes have come out. It's going to be fascinating to watch. But I've got to say, I wish Rafa all the best, and I've got nothing but good memories of him at Newcastle.
Snap, I couldn't agree more, John, and I feel exactly the same about Rafa. Good luck to him.
Yeah, good luck to him. Interesting as well, Malcolm, that John should mention Duncan Ferguson, because obviously we might not have signed any first-team players, but we've certainly been signing the kids. And Tom Dixon was asking what we thought of the players that have come in. Cameron Ferguson, of course, is the son of Duncan Ferguson. He's 18 years of age, and he's taken after his dad and, getting into the professional ranks. Charlie Wiggett is a defender. We brought him in... he was acquired by Chelsea from Swindon Town, I believe, at 15. Born in Reading. We brought him in, a defender. And Remy Savage, of course, the one that got a lot of publicity early on. Another defender, 19 years of age, from Liverpool. So we're bringing the youngsters in. We're building up that under-23 academy. Do you know much about them? Is that a good thing? Is it good to see?
Well, yeah, it's all... I've always been very willing to bring in talented youngsters into the club. But the situation that exists now is that we are very weak in the first team. So the last thing you want to do is put kids into the first team right now, because it ain't a good first team at all. Despite that sort of late flourish at the end of the season, the first team needs to be seriously strengthened. And then once that's strengthened and they're playing reasonably, then you can maybe start to bring one or two kids on. But at the moment, just leave them playing with the juniors and under 23s and what have you. It's they're always an exciting prospect, kids, and I dearly love to see them improving all the while and earning a place in the first team. But at the moment, it isn't a first team to go putting kids into.
No, definitely not. John, good to see some youngsters coming in. If if it's not first team, it's still nice to see new faces coming in, and you never know, we might find a decent player in there.
Well, that is the hope, absolutely so. Having decimated the academy squad that trains down at the other Benton, Newcastle had to bring in people because at the end of the season, they jettisoned quite a few players, didn't they? And so they have to bring in these guys, and I'm delighted to see them. I mean, I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, bless him, to be Duncan Ferguson's son, because living up to Dad takes some doing when Dad's being what Dad was. And I remember a young Dalglish coming to Newcastle with Dad Kenny having been the superstar he was, Paul Dalglish, and life was tough. It is tough if you're the son of a superstar. There's no question about that. I'm naturally pleased when kids come in. These kids are essentially for the under-23s, as Malcolm says. They're not for the first team. The only two things I would say about this situation is that I want this club of ours built up and put on a firm foundation in the long term, where we look to the long term. But the current situation Newcastle in today is a bigger problem than tomorrow. I don't want to see this coming season us win the Premier League Division 2 for the under-23s, win that championship and go down into the championship with the first team. I want the first team looked after, and I don't want either Steve Bruce or Mike Ashley to hide behind, we've got these super kids for tomorrow or the next day, and we are then stuck with another 2 or 3 Jeff Hendricks coming in for the first team this summer. The first team is so important to us at the moment. Smashing to see the kids come in. The Liverpool kid, I think, has got a real chance.
Yeah.
I'm quite pleased about that one. The other two I don't know enough about. I would have to wait and see. But they are for tomorrow. They're not for today. And, I am terribly concerned about today, and I want to see some movement then, because somebody said to me this week, guys, and they said to me, I tell you what, I'm not looking forward to the new season, because we are just the same. Nothing has changed. And I said, I'm sorry, pal, something has changed. We're worse off than last season because we haven't got Joe Willock and we haven't got Joe Willock's goals. So at this moment, we're actually worse off than last season because of Willock going. So we have got to get people in. Yes, time is on our side. No question about that. But the boys are in next Monday. There's a friendly, albeit just Harrogate, etc., on the 18th or something. And by the 14th, 15th, the weekend of August, we're back into the league. So there's time, but there's not enough time. And I really want to see something happening at first team level.
Harrogate on the 18th of July, Doncaster Friday, July the 23rd, Rotherham away, July the 27th, Burton Albion Friday, July the 30th, and Norwich City at home, which I find strange, August the 7th, a week before the big kickoff. And of course, Norwich City play us in the Premier League.
That is a strange one, Steve. I don't know what that. They often bring across a foreign side, don't they? For the
well, of course, COVID, of course, means that it is difficult. But why not play somebody who's a little bit closer to home? Middlesbrough would have made more sense.
Sunderland, why not?
It would have made more sense. I mean, I understand because Sunderland's playing at such a low level these days that it would have been a bit of a farce. You like to build up to having a more stronger test for your final game, but ultimately, Middlesbrough probably would have given us that. They're a championship team, so that would have worked.
They could have, of course, they could have asked Rafa to bring Everton over for pre-season.
Get off the Rafa subject, man.
That would have been interesting. Let the crowds in for the first time or the second time you were there last season. And it's Rafa and Everton. Whoops-a-daisy.
I can't believe it as well. You know, they moved the game. They've moved the first home game to the Sunday, and I'm going to miss it now because I booked, believe it or not, a trip, a once-in-a-lifetime trip to go around the Abbey Road studios in London with me dad. And me and me dad go to the game, as you know, together. And now they've moved the West Ham game. They've moved the West Ham game, the first Premier League game of the season, from the Saturday to the Sunday. And I'm going on the Sunday. And I deliberately picked the Sunday so that I didn't miss the match. So, for God's sake, never mind. Anyway, I'll give the sponsors...
Steve, you might be grateful.
Yeah, true. I'll give the sponsors I mentioned. Big thank you to Spider VPN, who've been one of our sponsors over the last few months. Google Spider VPN brings up them as the top providers for VPN protection. Protect your passwords, protect your computer, protect your Mac, whatever you've got. Spider VPN are the boys. And also skipsandbins.com, been with us the last couple of months. Big thank you to Scott and the lads. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay-as-you-go waste collection. I think Malcolm's going to do a bit of promo here for them.
Well, yeah, mine's 3/4 full, so I'll be phoning Scott to come and collect it fairly soon.
Very good. There you are. You couldn't get a better endorsement. Skipsandbins.com. Malcolm used them. So there you go. Also, a big thank you to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. And also the makers of our T-shirts as well. Thanks for sending us that, mate. The message is in the T-shirt. And thank you to Jab Signature for doing all of our flyers. Now, those of you eagle-eyed in the chat will realise that we have had to alter things a little bit slightly. It doesn't cost you money, of course. It is all free. But if you want to subscribe, you hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. But you have to subscribe to join the chat. Reason being, we like to separate the trolls from the normal people. And from our perspective, we have had a bit of trouble with different spamming things coming on and trolls, etc. So from our perspective, we ask you to subscribe to the channel, and that's it. You can chat. It's free. Just subscribe. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's it. Hit the thumb up to like the video. It does help us. Those of you hitting the thumb down, which is always very few and far between, still help because it helps the algorithm. So thank you for doing that. And drop into the comments section to comment on anything that we're talking about, or maybe pop us a question. Don't forget as well, the Matchday Bucket is still very much in operation throughout the Euros. So come on, England, hit the NUFC fans foodbank.co.uk Matchday Bucket and raise money for the West End Food Bank. And just want to say a big thank you to the Schooner. After 17 months or so, Malcolm and I were reunited at the Schooner this week. Thank you to Dean for inviting us along to go and start their quiz night, which they held on Monday. I hope it was a big success. It was great for me and Mal to finally see each other again and get a chance to get on the mic and talk a little bit of football, which is what we enjoy doing. So good luck to the lads at the Schooner. I'm sure that we'll be back down there, and I know they're quite fancy you going down there, John, at some point. So we'll have to get down, and maybe before the end of the Euros, me and you pop down and do a little bit as well. So great shout out. It was a lovely crowd, Malcolm, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, really good crowd, and yeah, everybody wanted to take part. They were all so enthusiastic.
Yeah, okay. And there was somebody who wanted to take over as well, who was telling us about his how he had Gaza marked out in his pocket when he was a kid. Remember him?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can't be gated.
Yeah.
It's where I'm from.
Gaza remembers that.
I don't think he will. But don't forget, tomorrow night, it is the Fab Four, 5:30 till 7:30. Me, Keith Patterson, Steve Hasty, and Neil Mitchell chewing the fat over the last 7 days at Newcastle United, the Euros, and I'm sure Rafa Benitez in the takeover will get a big mention on that show tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to take a few of your questions now. Barry Hogan was in very early this afternoon, so I haven't ignored you, Barry. I hope you're still working down the COVID centre, doing that great job, mate. I'll see you soon for my second jab. He says, evening, gentlemen, what do you think of the rumoured stories that Ashley is still whinging on about the age of players? I'm at the stage where happy with no signings as long as he goes. Yeah, I mean, the age of players, the budget, Malcolm, it's something we've talked about on the show over the last couple of weeks. You said on the mic on Monday at the Schooner that £12 million was the budget, but we've heard up to 50 potentially. But the age of players, surely we're not going back down that route again.
Well, what I would like to see at the moment are better players coming in, and age really isn't much of a concern for me. I'm just looking generally at the whole situation, and we need better players to ensure that we stay in the Premiership.
Yeah. I mean, John, would you agree? It's the financial side of things. I mean, Malcolm feels that it could only be 12 million, and his philosophy behind that was, it had me convinced really that was the money we got from finishing not 17th but finishing 12th, which means Mike Ashley doesn't have to pull anything out of his pocket again.
I mean, it is getting absurd. In this business, if we're going back to the old days where anybody over 27, we don't want to sign because, there's no sell-on, it is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, 27 is that the age of Harry Kane, so we wouldn't like to sign Harry Kane because he's too old. I mean, players are coming into the pomp at this sort of age, and I did see that, and my heart sunk and thought, but we are now allegedly, another one of the things going about, we're now in competition with Sunderland to buy somebody out of Wolves for £1.5 million. But the latest thing tonight is that the kid is saying that he would prefer to stay at Wolves. I mean, really, are we down to this sort of level that somebody that started Sunderland in League One last season while on loan would turn us down and turn Sunderland down because he'd rather stay at Wolves where he's not a first teamer? I mean, we've got to get our ambition out of the gutter and look a little bit higher than we have been looking. And that's what worries me when I see we're signing kids. That's great. That is wonderful. But is that camouflage because of the sort of level we're going to buy at, monetary-wise, that we're not going to look at a player that's going to cost a certain amount of money? It is absolutely ludicrous. We have to improve the current side that we had, because if we go again with exactly the same players and no Joe Willock, do you think we'll finish 12th next season?
No,
because I don't.
No, and I fully agree, John. But when you think that Ashley, who is a very, very successful businessman, he is expecting the whole thing to be run on a complete shoestring when we're seeing the Manchester Uniteds and so on and so forth are prepared to spend 70-odd million just on one player. Just one player. And Steve Bruce has at his disposal a mere fraction of what that one player is costing Man United. And there are so many transfers because everything is being somewhat delayed by the European Championships. It always happens that way. And there'll be once the championships are over, there's going to be a massive flurry of transfers happening. And Newcastle, Steve Bruce can idly sit by and just watch it all happen because he can't take part. He just can't take part whatsoever. I would imagine that Norwich will have more money to spend than Steve Bruce has. And the other clubs coming up with them, they'll be spending more money. When you think that Fulham, dear me, when they came up, not this past time, it was about 3-4 years ago when they came up, they spent £112 million. I don't think Newcastle spent £112 million under all the years that Ashley's been the owner. So it can't keep going on like this, where we sort of keep scraping by and we stay up, you know, scraping it. All of a sudden, it only needs a couple of injuries or a bit of bad form and what have you. The whole thing goes, you know. Okay, so we had a good run at the end of the season, but if I take you back to February, we were all absolutely panicking about the dreadful form Newcastle were in, and that relegation seemed absolutely assured at the time, you know, and we were able to just sneak out of it. So all I can hope is that the Premier League give the nod and that the takeover can happen, because I really believe that Newcastle United have an owner who has absolute zero interest. Zero interest. If the takeover doesn't go through, then I am frightened that we will get relegated again under Ashley.
Yeah, that's the big concern. I mean, we got out of jail last year, John, didn't we, really? But, yeah, Malcolm's right.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt. I mean, we have gone on. How long's a piece of string? You know, we are definitely going to waste this summer. As far as the takeover is concerned, it isn't going to happen in time for us to get the right signings this summer. So we're going to be a patchwork quilt going into the new season. There's absolutely no question about that at all. Time is not on our side, transfer market-wise. So we're a patchwork quilt. We go in again, and we're trying to buy time, aren't we? We're trying to say, can we survive in the Premier League next season so that the takeover happens and the season afterwards we have a real bash at the whole situation. It is frightening, but I also come back to what equally frightens me, guys, is that when we have a little bit of money, we don't spend it well. Outside of Callum Wilson, we don't spend it well. You look at Jeff Hendrick, you look at Jamal Lewis, you look at Ryan Fraser. We haven't spent well. And that is the second worry. If under the current situation, we had a new owner, the Saudis, and the £100 million was given to the current setup to spend, would you feel happy that it would be spent well? They've got to change an awful lot of things within St. James's Park to put us back on track. I mean, we are getting outgunned now by Aston Villa, who the season before last just survived in the Premier League by 1 point, finishing 1 point above Bournemouth. 1 point above Bournemouth. They flew away last season, and they've already bought the kid from Norwich. They're trying to sign the Arsenal lad at the moment, and they're still saying, we believe we'll keep Jack Grealish. They're showing ambition that's way beyond the ambition shown by us.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, it's going to be another summer of discontent if this takeover doesn't go through. I'm sick of it. I just want it to be sorted either way. And to me, you know, nobody knows. I've seen a lot of stuff going around today. The one that interested me was Luke Edwards again. It was on a tweet, actually, that he was replying to somebody else. I think he was having a bit of a chat with Pete Graves from Sky Sports News. But Edwards said this, Malcolm: Ashley's not for the first time using the takeover as an excuse to do absolutely nothing. And you know what? He's getting away with it. He's been getting away with all the things he's usually attacked for because he's fighting for the takeover. When you realise that, that's what he put. So I don't know. I mean, surely Mike Ashley is not going down this route, is he? He's not. This isn't all just an act, and this isn't just all going to collapse like a pack of cards in 6 weeks, and he's got off scot-free for the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, because he's doing it again, and I think he'll get away with it. Yes, he always does. Maybe because with Newcastle United, that they are such a loyal, faithful support that they will turn up week in, week out, no matter what. Where other clubs, supporters would be taking stronger action to let the club know their feelings. And so I just think that Ashley has worked that one out, and he just plays on it. Absolutely plays on it. Dangles a carrot here and there, makes a couple of false promises through the summer, and nothing will happen. He will ensure nothing happens, and I just feel that, for heaven's sake, how long's he been at the club? 15 years, is it?
Yeah, coming up to another landmark.
And 15 years, all he's done is suck the life out of the club. Sucked it out totally. And how long it will take to actually recover from all the damage Ashley has done. Well, who knows? Who knows? But if all I can hope is the takeover happens, because if the takeover doesn't happen, what the hell is going to happen? Under Ashley, nothing.
I tell you what, guys, I'm sick to death, sick to my back teeth of waiting for this takeover to happen. Because you know what's happened? Nothing. In terms of concrete, nothing has happened. For 18 months, we've lived in hope, built on nothing more than clouds in the sky. Nothing has happened at all in the last 18 months, and nothing can happen in the next 18 months the way things are going at the moment. Ashley's getting a free run because it appears like he is very keen to get the takeover done. He's actually in a win-win situation, because either the takeover happens and he's got 300 million, or it doesn't, but it's not his fault because he's wanted it to. That's the way he's looking at it. And quite frankly, I'm sick to my back teeth of waiting for this takeover to happen. And I've run out of faith that it is going to happen, a bit like Steve, who has really, really hung his hat on this and wanted it, and I've wanted it, and every Geordie's wanted it. But the bottom line is we're going nowhere, and we're going nowhere very fast. And I would rather face up to the fact now that it isn't going to happen, if it's not, and start again or whatever, but at least face reality. We are living on hope built on nothing. The hope is built on nothing. There's nothing concrete to hold on to. There's little bits of flotsam passing us as we're up to our neck in the river, and that's about as good as it gets. And I am so cynical about it, I will not believe it's happened until I can see the exhaust fumes of Ashley's car going over the Tyne Bridge, and somebody's on the pitch at St James's Park waving a black and white scarf above their head. Until that happens, it ain't going to happen. And we don't want to face the fact that it isn't going to happen, because we don't want to be left with no hope, because hope's all we've got. But the harsh reality is, right now, we are not one step further forward than we were 18 months ago. Not one step further forward.
Yeah, and things haven't changed, and things have changed for the worse, Malcolm, because we're in a situation where, let's not forget, before COVID, that February 2020 when we all thought, you know, we'd be at the next game. Do you remember I told you when we did the pre-match, you know, that I was suddenly surrounded by 10,000 fans who were all on free tickets. We were 10,000 season ticket holders missing. 10,000 people didn't renew. This time we're going in. You know, this time we're going into a new season. If we're under Ashley and Bruce, I think it could be more. I still think we're in that same position. Nothing's really changed. Nothing has really changed.
Okay, nothing has really changed. But what I'd like to ask you two guys is this: if the takeover doesn't happen, what does Ashley do? Where do Newcastle United go?
He's got to look for. Well, look, if the takeover doesn't go through, Mal, he's £17 million up off the non-returnable loan that he got off the club. But how much has he spent on lawyers? Has he just spent that 17 million on Nick DeMarco and co? But where does he go? He's got two choices. He either sits here and decides, right, I'm going to try again one last time, or he tries to find another mug who's going to spend more than the club's worth, because the club's value's dropped. It's about 190 million at the minute. That's the suggested going price. He's not going to get 300 million plus for it anymore. So it's a $1 million question. I wish I knew the answer, but you get the impression he still wants to leave, John. Would you agree? I think he wants to go. I think he wants out, but it's a hell of a drop. 190 million from 300 million.
Yeah, I think he does want to go. I think he's exhausted all avenues where Newcastle United initially was very good for Sports Direct as a vehicle to help him sell shirts, etc., etc. It was newfangled with a new toy that appealed to him. He was up here singing on karaoke's, and it was all fun to start with. It's no longer that. He wants to go, but he's not willing to bite the bullet to go. He wants to go on his terms, where he still gets the big bucks to go. My great worry is that if this takeover collapses, and it's been nothing but that, to be brutally truthful, he will then, I think, just pull in his oars and sit until somebody comes along, and he won't invest one iota in this club. And the outcome of that might be that we are relegated, but relegated in a way that other big clubs have been in the past, like Leeds, like Portsmouth, like, dare we say, Sunderland, and you continue to be relegated and you fall down a big black hole. Yeah. That is the huge worry, that if he pulls his oars in and says, I will sit tight till somebody comes and pays the dollar I want, but I ain't going to invest in the meantime in Newcastle United, we can go the way of Leeds United, of Sunderland, of Portsmouth, who were winning the FA Cup under Harry Redknapp and playing in the top flight of football, etc., etc., and then disappear. Sheffield Wednesday. We've seen a load of these clubs, Malcolm. And if the hell for us is that if this takeover doesn't happen, will somebody else come in with the sort of money the Saudis have got? And I don't know where they're going to come from. And if they don't, if they don't, we know Ashley will not speculate to accumulate with this football club. He will sit tight. And if he sits tight, what happened to Sunderland? What happened to Leeds? How long did it take Leeds to come back? 20 years, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
Sunderland aren't shown any sign they're into the fourth season of League One football. Sunderland, you can disappear off the end of a precipice, and that is the huge worry for all Geordies.
Play and watch. Paul Jones says Ashley's jet is on the move again from Switzerland to Mallorca to see the Reuben brothers. I do love these plane spotters. Thanks for your update, Paul. You never know. Some of this might lead to something. You never know. Right, okay. 5 minutes left, lads. Let's turn our attention back to England, Malcolm, and the big game against the Ukraine. it's, you know, the running on this side of the draw for us is against teams that we've beaten in recent years. Ukraine, you know, I can see it being a tougher game than England against Germany, but am I going to get carried away? I think England are going to sneak it, Mal. I think England will sneak this. I think they're going to sneak it 1-0.
All right, but I think that Gareth Southgate finds himself in a dilemma. And the dilemma is this, because after the quarter-final, all previous bookings are cancelled out. And at the moment, there's about half a dozen England players on a single booking. What Gareth Southgate doesn't want is for them to get booked against Ukraine, and therefore they'll be suspended for the following match. So does he leave out those 5 or 6 players who have already been booked just to keep them safe and secure, ready for the next game? I think I personally wouldn't be happy if he were to do that. But at the same time, I would understand him doing it, but I think it's taking a real chance.
Okay, John, what about you?
Well, interesting. I think that Germany has opened up everything for us. Beating Germany's opened up everything for us. This is our biggest chance in a million years to do what we did in '66, because we're in the right side of the draw. The only time we are not playing at Wembley is on Saturday. This is a home tournament for us, as '96 was. The only game we're not playing at Wembley is on Saturday, when we're playing the lowest ranked team in the tournament. In the semi-final, we could well have Denmark, who are beatable. They're on an emotional roller coaster after Ericsson, etc., but they're very beatable. The problem will come. I expect us to win the quarterfinal and probably the semi. The problem comes in the final. But if you look at the other side of the draw, you've got on Friday night, you've got Belgium v Italy. One of them's got to go out. We wouldn't want to play either of those sides in the quarterfinal on Saturday, would we? We wouldn't want to play Belgium on Saturday instead of the Ukraine, or Italy on Saturday instead of the Ukraine. And by the way, who else is in that side of the draw? You've got Belgium, Italy, and Spain in that side of the draw, and you've got Ukraine and Denmark in our side of the draw. Are they trying to give us the cup? It's brilliant. It's absolutely wonderful. The problem comes in the final when we've got to beat either Belgium, Italy, or Spain. That is the difficult match. That is the difficult match. I think we will beat Ukraine, and I'm going for 2-0. I think we will beat Ukraine. I'm not worried about Ukraine. I was worried about Germany. By the way, when I'm not worried about Ukraine, means that we're in big trouble, because I wasn't worried about Hereford United, and we didn't beat them. So I'm not suggesting anything. By the way, the next week I was worried about Manchester United and was stuffed then. So that's the way it is. And England's a bit reflective of Newcastle United. But I expect us to beat Ukraine. I'm off glad we're not in the same. Can you imagine Belgium v Italy on Friday night?
Poor Malcolm's going to have.
We would rather be playing Ukraine, wouldn't we?
Poor Malcolm's going to have nightmares of people running across his garden wearing parkas now, thanks to you, John. Not going to get any sleep. Just a quick prediction from you, Mal.
Yeah, I think England will win, but it won't be as easy as a lot of people are thinking. And I think they'll keep a clean sheet. That's the one thing that Ukraine they do struggle to stick it in the net. So I'm going to go 1-0 to England.
1-0, same as me. Great stuff. John, fantastic to have you back, mate. Great show, and thanks to everybody in the chat for their questions. That hour flew over as usual. Look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday when we could be looking ahead to a semi-final. Take care, lads.
Absolutely.
All right.
Keep sticking in, boys. See you next week, fellas.
Indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye, mate.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past.